And there's so many different places to go. Like 1 Kings 13. That was 1 Kings 13. When you look at the Canaanite deities and where they were worshipped, right? Why do you think Shlomo, under David's tutelage, had the house of Yah literally built on a high place, Mount Moriah, the mountain of Yah, Jerusalem? It's called the Temple Mount because it's a mountain. And if you really just think about it logically, to get closer to God, you're at the highest point, you're looking towards the heavens. And that's what the people did. Then later, when they saw that really wasn't working, because it was easy to spot that, you'll read this about in Yeshaya, like the last chapter to Yeshaya, Isaiah, you'll start noticing they started practicing in the groves, hiding out in the groves in the countryside, in the trees. And what do we see today? The elite Bohemian Grove and all these other places, right? So again, these are just some of the things that I was trying to explain to you. So now, let's take a look at some of the stuff like when we deal back with Ephesians, right? When we go back to Ephesians, chapter 6, in the dummy book, right? Verse 12, it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. The word principality there is arche. That's the Greek word arche. G746, right? It's arche, right? And it literally says a commencement. And it says order, time, place, or rank, beginning, corner. It says magistrate, power, principality, principle, rule. So now we're still talking about principle. We're not talking about no doggone Satan, okay, or no demon. And against the powers. The word powers there is ousia, right? It's the same thing, exousia. And it's the same thing. It means privilege, competency, freedom, capacity, mastery, potentate, right? Liberty, power, right, strength. Then it says, and against the rulers, right? Kosmoskrator, right? And that says what? A world ruler. World ruler. Then it tries to say an epithet for Satan. It's not an epithet for Satan. Okay? So we're breaking this all down. And it says, of the darkness and of this world, right? Aeon, world, age, right? You know, and aeon is an actual age. That's the Greek word aeon, right? World. Against spiritual, right? Thaumatikos, right? When you look at thaumatikos, it literally translate, and the root word of that is pneuma, where we get the word spirit. So it'll say thaumatikos, and it means non-carnal. That's G4151. That is humanly ethereal. See that? That is humanly ethereal as opposed to gross or diamonically, diamonically a spirit, concretely, or divinely, right? So it says non-carnal. Now, this is where they start to play the spook game with you, right? And then it says wickedness and high places, in high places. Now, when you look up the word high there, is G2032, which is iporenios, right? Iporenios. And that's the Greek word, and it says above the sky. So now they're trying to pretend it's above the sky, but as I just showed you, it says iporenios, places, and places is italicized, but it's showing you the high in wickedness, spiritual wickedness in the high places. Well, if it's spiritual wickedness in the high places, then they're trying to tell you it's in the heavens. So you start seeing Paul and all these people talking about the first, second, and third heavens. But the high places have always been where people rule. So now, when you look at the people of Bohemian Grove, you're thinking they're being controlled by Satan. They're not. There is no Satan. What they're doing is because all the wisdom and understanding has been pulled from these people. They're just as clueless. I know we think because they have finances and money and they run the world. It doesn't take anything to run the world but just commitment to do wrong. Or commitment to do right. You just have a group of people with resources, and they utilize those resources to control, manipulate, and keep people in an actual state of lack. And when you're in a state of lack, you're too busy to show time and study to your creator. And that's what's going on here. They want you to think it's something different. So when you look up the word pneuma, right? And that's G4151. So that's G4151 pneuma. A current of air that is breath, blast, or a breeze. Then it says by analogy or figuratively a spirit. When it says figuratively, that's not literal. That's not real. You see? And like I tell you, ask people, hey, describe a spirit. What is a spirit made out of? Explain a spirit. People can't explain what a spirit is. I challenge anybody in the comment section to explain a spirit to me. When the Most High says that he caused his spirit to come on to Shimson, or who we call Samson, that's the thing about it. The Most High calls his spirit to come on him. He enlightens him. He gives him the power to do something because the Most High himself is a spirit. But people take that concept and start thinking that the word spirit means some type of invisible entity, even though we see that the Most High takes form. He takes shape. There's a lot of this stuff. So now, all of these verses I went through in Kings, right? In 2 Kings 12:3, 14:4, 15:4, and 15:35. I didn't read 15:35, but you read 15:35, you can see it as well. It always talks about the incense. So we're going to listen to this idiot explain to us what incense is, okay? Let's listen to him. And let's see if this makes any sense whatsoever.
Catholic liturgy, but we're afraid to ask. My name is Bishop Christopher Coyne, and many of these questions come from discussions that I've had with people, or texting or emails that they've sent to me. So what's today's question? What's with the incense? Well, it goes back to way before Christianity. In ancient religions and in ancient throne rooms, incense was used in many ways to hide smells. You know, it was not what you'd call the most hygienic of times or the most aromatic of times. And incense and smoke being burned in a room was a way of hiding the particular odors that might just be a part of all of humanity and various livestock being together. That's one reason. The second is that incense was, in a sense, it's a preservative. You know, smoke in the ancient world was used in a way to preserve meats and foods by smoking them. And so there's that sense of the preservative sense of the smoke. And the third is that incense in the ancient world was often a very costly thing. And so one would use incense as a way of perhaps displaying wealth, or if one would burn incense when an honored guest would come, it was a way to honor the guest. So when this moves from that kind of profane realm,
bro, what are you talking about, man?
You can see a number of things beginning to happen. That in religious ceremonies, the idea of burning incense was to offer a fragrant offering to the Lord. It was to offer something that was, in a sense, sacrificial to the gods. And it also could be a way of, in the sense of being a preservative, in the sense that the elements or the things that were being brought forward were being preserved as well. In Psalm 141, we hear the phrase, "My prayers rise to you, O Lord, like incense, like an evening offering." And so when we use incense in our present rituals, especially at the celebration of the Eucharist, there's a number of things that are taking place. It's an offering to God of something that is expensive. It is also, in a sense, when you use it at a funeral, for example, it's the idea of preserving, it ties to the idea of the eternal sense of the soul. All these things are part of that ritual. And it's also
man, listen. Let's stop for a second, bro. This man said incense with the Catholic Church is because the people stank. It's because they're trying to preserve meat. And it's trying to show wealth, and you bring it out. Bro, none of that got anything to do with incense, and that's why I gave you those verses in Kings. 2 Kings 12:3, 14:4, 15:4, and even 15:35. Even in 1 Kings, you'll see incense in Exodus. the Most High told us to do the incense as a sweet smell to Him. That's why we do it. It ain't got nothing to do with people being stanky. And here's the crazy part. Let's just pretend in antiquity the people were stanky. They didn't, they didn't bathe. We know the history. They didn't bathe and things like that. So let's just bring it back now. The people, the general congregation, bathe. So why would you even mention that? But you need that extra money because you need that money to sell this concept, to sell all this stuff right here, right? You need to sell it. You need to make all this money, so you need to be able to buy the expensive incense. This is pure nonsense. Anybody that with half a brain can see, man, this is just pure nonsense. And that's why when you look at these occult rituals, when you see, it's really just blackmail. If you haven't learned anything from the Diddy and from all the other, it's just blackmail. The homosexuality, the sodomy, all this stuff, doing all this crazy stuff, it's just to blackmail. It's a club to blackmail, to gain secrecy, because remember, everything that's not Yah is wrong. And that's why you see this sodomy and all this other stuff attached to these rituals. Blood rituals, drinking blood, excrement, all this other stuff, right? Mistreating people, messing with children, the Epsteins and all this stuff, the Epstein Island and all that stuff, right? You see all of this stuff taking place, because what I want you to walk away from this video series understanding is that the only thing that these people have is fear. Your inability to keep the law, statutes, commandments, precepts, ordinances, and judgments, and fear. If you do that, and you have to do that because they do have power in the sense as carnally they have power. They can throw litigation at you and have you where you be going to court and you lose everything. But if you have Yah, they can't. That's what Yah means when no weapon formed against you shall prosper. It won't cause you any hurt. Why? Because Yah is that. Like I said, I was talking to one of my good friends, Sue, and I was telling her about how I had a mole in my backyard. And I told the Most High, I said, you said you rebuke the devourer for our sakes. That's in Malachi. That ain't got nothing to do with no demons or nothing. That's just talking about the cankerworm, the caterpillar, moles, all the things. These are Yah's army that come in and he used to destroy. Right? And when I said that to Yah, not even a couple days later, my wife was getting off work and she said, there's a dog in our yard. It was a neighbor's dog. And the dog was, she said, was shaking something. It was a pit bull shaking something. But, the dogs know us or whatnot. So she got out the car. She called me outside. I went outside. And the dog looked at me and just took off running. She said he was doing something in the yard because I have a big front yard. So I walked over to where he was. He had killed the mole that had been messing up my okra and stuff in my backyard. So now I have no issues with that. That's what he means by rebuke the vile forsake. So with this, I hope you guys have learned a great deal here. Stay tuned for more. Shema Yisrael Yah Eloheinu Yah Echad.